Zero Skull. Dude, you can call me Dude.
You might read a story, you might travel through time, you might play a game or commit a crime. You never know on the ZERØ Show.
My name is Sam Vaknin. I'm the author of Malignant Self-Love, Narcissism Revisited. Is there anything you can do to avoid abusers and narcissists to start with? Are there any warning signs, any identifying marks, any rules of thumb to shield you from the harrowing and traumatic experience of an abusive relationship? Imagine you're on a first or second date. Can you already tell if he or she is a would-be abuser? Well, the answer is yes, and here's how. Perhaps the first telltale sign is the abuser's alloplastic defenses. In other words, his tendency to blame every mistake of his, every failure, every mishap, on others or on the world at large. Be tuned. Does he assume personal responsibility? Does he admit his faults and miscalculations? Or does he keep blaming you, the cab driver, the waiter, the weather, the government, the cosmos, or fortune for his predicament? Is he hypersensitive? Does he pick up fights? Does he feel constantly slighted, injured, and insulted? Does he rant incessantly? Does he treat animals and children impatiently or cruelly? Does he express negative and aggressive emotions towards the weak, the poor, the needy, the sentimental, the sick, and the disabled? Does he confess to having a history of battering or violent offenses or behavior? Is his language vile and infused with expletives, threats, and hostility? Next thing, is he too eager? Does he push you to marry him, having dated you only twice? Is he planning on having children on your first date? Does he immediately cast you in the role of the love of his life? Is he pressing you for exclusivity, instant intimacy, almost rapes you and acts jealous when you as much as cast a glance at another male? Does he inform you that once you get hitched, you should abandon your studies or resign your job, or forego your personal autonomy? Does he respect your boundaries, your privacy? Does he ignore your wishes, for instance by choosing from the menu or selecting a movie without as much as consulting you? Does he disrespect your boundaries and treats you as an object or an instrument of gratification? For instance, does he materialize on your doorstep unexpectedly or calls you often prior to your date? Does he go through your personal belongings while waiting for you to get ready? Does he text or phone you multiply and incessantly and insist on knowing where you are or where you have been all these times? Does he control the situation? Does he control you compulsively? Does he insist to ride in his car? Does he hold on to the car keys, the money, the theater tickets, and even your bag? Does he disapprove if you are away for too long, for instance when you go to powder your nose? Does he interrogate you when you return? Have you seen anyone interesting? Does he make lewd jokes and remarks, sometimes at your expense? Does he hint that in future you would need his permission to do things, even as innocuous as meeting a friend or visiting with your family? Does he insist on a dress code that you are supposed to follow? Does he act in a patronizing and condescending manner? Does he criticize you often? Does he emphasize your minutest faults? In other words, does he devalue you? Does he exaggerate? On the other hand, does he idealize you? Does he exaggerate your talents, your traits, your skills? Does he call your names? Does he harass or ridicule you? Is he wildly unrealistic in his expectations from you, from himself, from the budding relationship, and from life in general? All these are very bad signs. Does he tell you constantly that you make him feel good? Don't be impressed. Next thing, he may tell you that you make him feel bad, or that you make him feel violent, or that you provoke him. A very common sentence of abusers is, "Look what you made me do." That's his ubiquitous catchphrase. Does your date find sadistic sex exciting? Does he have fantasies of rape, pedophilia? Is he too forceful with you, in and out of the sexual intercourse? Does he like hurting you physically or finds it amusing? Does he abuse you verbally? Does he curse you, demeans you, calls you ugly or inappropriately diminutive names? Does he persistently criticize you? Does he beat or slap you or otherwise mistreats you physically? Does he then, having committed this abuse, suddenly switch to being saccharine and loving, apologizing profusely? Does he buy you gifts as a way of compensating? If you've answered yes to any of the above, stay away. He is an abuser. And then there is, of course, the abuser's body language. It comprises an unequivocal series of subtle but discernible, observable warning signs. Pay attention to the way your date comports himself and save yourself a world of trouble.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello and welcome to a very distrumpting farewell to ex-President Donald Trump's special episode of the ZERØ show. Trump's fired. He lost. Amen. You know, Biden was never an exceptionally popular candidate, so you may wonder how it can be that he won. You see, Trump was unpopular. Trump was less popular than the other one was. Most people who voted for What's-Its were not actually voting for that person. They were actually voting against Donald Trump. We can guesstimate that about 1/3 of the Democratic Party candidates' votes were actually for that candidate, and that about 2/3 of them were actually just votes against TRUMPTY. So come on, we've all been practicing for the last 4 years. We've all been practicing for the last 4 years. We've been pointing at our mirror and saying it. So now we actually can. Ready? Donald Trump. 1, 2, 3.
You're fired!
Come on, everybody. Everybody join in. Come on. 1, 2, 3.
You're fired!
Yeah, that was more like it. So this is my wallet. For the last 4 years, I've had this card in my wallet because I couldn't believe it, and I needed that thing to remind me that it was true. And it is true no more. Bingle, bingle. Oh, that felt good. Whew. Now, I know that nobody wants to see your vacation slides, especially if they were on the same vacation, and especially, again, if it was a vacation through hell. Luckily, I can't find all of the Trumpty comic strips that I made. I have no idea what happened to most of them. I think this was the first one, see, because he's called Trumpty Dumped. He lied to us all. Trumpty promised war, lied to us all. All involved parties and all McCain's brains couldn't get Trumpty dumped under the reins. And I think this is I thought I could do a daily strip about this guy, because like every day I know he would say or do something stupid, right? And then he just kept going and going and going. See, so this is like he's Trumpty dumping, see? And he's having his periods because he keeps putting ... at the end of his tweets. See? Get it? Yeah. And then my biggest enemy is nuclear war. So I did this one. See, there's the button. It's the button. Keep idiots away from this. That's what that sign says, and so that's the button. And then he's over here doing I'm a little teapot, see, because he's an idiot. And it's called duck, duck, and cover, And then this is one that I never finished, where he's like, "I'm a suicidal maniac. I'm taking all of you with me." And it's like, which half is true? And then here's the thing about a whistleblower, and he's like, reporting on my activities against the American people, to the American people, through a government-approved whistleblower system is treason. Remember when he was like that? That was hilarious. And then remember Sharpiegate? Remember the Sharpiegate thing? He drew an extra line onto Louisiana. Remember Sharpiegate? Yeah. So anyway, remember that crazy vacation through hell that we were all on? Yeah, isn't it fun to reminisce about that? So I guess this is like a joke. What is Antifa? Antifa is short for anti-fascist. It is a movement of people who are against fascism. And Donald Trump has stated that Antifa is his personal enemy. This anti-fascist group, he says, is his personal enemy. Now, there's only one type of person who claims that anti-fascists are their personal enemy. Can you guess what type of person that is? Anti-fascists are enemies of... Hey, let's do that thing again. Everybody join in. I mean, it really feels good, and it's real, and it's true. Come on, everybody. Donald Trump. 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah, that's great. But lots of people made all kinds of predictions about how Trump's first term would go and what would happen. And I feel like with the crumbling infrastructure, the sense of immense loss, the overgrown government buildings, the closed down playground, people scrounging homeless, we've got Trevor Noah having to, the Comedy Central offices are closed, so Trevor Noah had to break in to make a transmission. Stole Steve Harvey's mustache. And as you know, Trevor Noah actually has grown a mustache. And then one last thing. You've got Roy on the phone, and the only way you can communicate with his correspondence is via video calls. So I'm going to say it was indeed The Daily Show with Trevor Noah who called it. And was it worth it? No, it wasn't worth it. No, it wasn't at all worth it.
Happy days are here again. The skies above are clear again. Let us sing a song of cheer again. Happy days are here again. All together shout it now. There's no one who can doubt it now. So let's tell the world
So the first movie I can remember seeing in a theater as a child was when I was 3 years old, and the movie was An American Tail. I specifically remember the darkened theater. I don't remember the movie logo, but I remember this gigantic crystalline structure just tumbling down out of the sky, filling the entire field of view, and then exploding into white powder snow. I very, very distinctly remember that. That was a weird one. And as I went through my childhood, that particular movie was always an important part of it. Had it on VHS, had it on DVD. Haven't watched it in a while. But it's a story about this kid from Russia. He's a mouse in the story, but he's just this kid. He's from Russia. His family is being attacked by brutal, violent hordes, and so they have to flee their homeland, and they come to America. On the boat ride, the kid gets separated from his family, and they believe he might be dead because it happened in a massive sea storm at sea on the ship. He was on deck, and they didn't see him again after that. So they arrive in America. His family goes through Ellis Island. So they arrive in America. His family goes through Ellis Island. And he winds up on Liberty Island, where Henri is a pigeon who is building the Statue of Liberty. So it's there in the harbor, and it's like just the bright, shiniest copper. But it's incomplete. And then, spoiler, it's complete by the end of the movie. He meets a pigeon who tells him to never say never. There's always a way. And so he gets a ride from the pigeon, or one of the pigeon's friends, to the mainland, or to Manhattan, where he meets a rat, and the rat, spoiler, sells him to tells him that he's going to meet his family, tells him that he knows exactly where his family is, and takes him and sells him to a sweatshop, where he is told that this is his family now. He escapes from there. Winds up going all over New York looking for his family, makes friends with New Yorkers who try to help him. They take him around to like the voter registrar who knows every mouse in town, or every mouse who's registered to vote. Golly. And it's just this story of this boy who's separated from his family, and he's trying so desperately hard to find them. And they don't know if he's alive or dead. And somewhere in the middle of the movie, the boy, Fievel, and his sister, whose name I can't remember at this moment, unknowingly sing a duet of a song that was produced for the movie as a pop song to promote the film, called Somewhere Out There. And I'm just reminded of all the children who have been separated from their families, and the desperate attempts to find them, and how apparently they had held back information that they could have given at earlier times, such as phone numbers, which were by this date many were inactive. And it just reminds me of that bit where this boy and his sister on opposite sides of New York are singing a duet, hoping beyond hope that someone who loves them is wondering where the hell they are. And it's like somewhere out there beneath the pale moonlight, someone's thinking of you and loving you tonight. Somewhere out there, someone's saying a prayer that you'll find one another in that big somewhere out there. And you don't even know how very far apart you are. But there's a chance that you may be wishing on the same bright star. And in the night when stars do sing their lonesome lullaby, does it help to know you're sleeping underneath the same big sky? Somewhere out there, if love can see this through, then you'll all find one another somewhere out there, out where dreams come true. And I just hope that we can really reunite these people. I don't think that we'll ever be able to bear down the guilt and responsibility for what we did to these people. But we can try. We can try. I play video games under the name ZERØ School, and I have over 200 world records at mostly vintage games, mostly handheld games. And all of my world records belong to all Americans, and all other American records belong to me as well, because I'm also American. If you declare me as your enemy, I refuse to be it. You are American, I am American. We're not enemies. We're on the same side for America. America isn't some subsect of America. It isn't some political party. It isn't some movement. It's all Americans. We're all America. I am not going to be your enemy. According to William S. Burroughs, the only magic worth knowing is that magic that turns an enemy into a friend. But I don't know that magic because I have no enemies. And all of my world records belong to you. Just like your local high school football team belongs to you, and just like your state team belongs to you. And that's kind of like socialism, isn't it? Whatever. Well, wasn't that fun? Let's end on a high note. Let's do this thing one last time, but everybody has to join in with feeling. I wanted to echo down to the 8th circle of hell reserved for deceivers, fraudsters, flatterers, falsifiers, hypocrites, unscrupulous politicians, and those who provoke schism. Donald Trump, 1, 2, 3. Well, that's it. Have fun, everybody.
Dude, ZERØ's called. Dude, you can call me dude.
Remind me to story my travel through time. Good night.